From anxious to secure, welcome to a Q&A about my anxious attachment healing journey, the before and after. If you have an anxious attachment style and you've ever wondered how I actually became securely attached, this episode is for you. The other day, someone sent me a survey and there were questions. They might be quite interesting for you as well if I just publish my part of the survey on what worked, what didn't work, how has my life changed now because of my healing journey and becoming securely attached. So I'm gonna link the chapters below. You can skip right away to the survey, to the questions and answers if you want to. And by the way, I'm Yula, I'm the Anxious to Secure coach, and welcome to the Anxious to Secure podcast. Disclaimer, I'm not a therapist or doctor. This content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, or heal any mental health condition. If you're in an abusive relationship or dealing with severe mental health challenges, always seek professional advice. For a quick refresher, attachment theory was developed by John Bowlby and then also later reinforced or developed further by his student Mary Ainsworth. It basically explained how we attach to our caregivers when we are little, and then how we later attach to everyone else in the world, to especially romantic partners, but also friends and colleagues and honestly, everything else in the world. And there are 4 styles. So there's now the secure attachment style, the anxious preoccupied, this dismissive avoidant, or in short, avoidant, and the fearful avoidant, or in short, disorganized attachment style. And the secure attachment style is usually more the goal, the healthiest, which is linked with healthy, high self-esteem, low anxiety. You trust yourself and you're able to trust other people as well. And you're able to go more for big opportunities in life. You are able to climb more the career ladder because you're not afraid to talk to people of challenges. You don't have anxiety and thinking only about worst case scenarios. And you feel safe in those kind of scenarios. And you feel confident and able to connect with others without fear. And it also impacts your health enormously because you're regulated. And that is the goal. If you have a secure attachment style, it will also impact your kids and your friends and your nervous systems that you get into contact with. And if you have a more anxious attachment style, like I used to, you attach very quickly to people because you don't really know how to attach to yourself, to connect to yourself. You don't trust yourself, so you trust others more. So you're always having this fear of people might leave. Again, everything comes from your caregivers because you had this fear when you were younger. Maybe my mom's going to leave. Maybe my dad is going to leave because some experiences taught you this. Maybe it was just expression. Maybe your mom was loving and caring most of the time, but then their expression went very cold and you felt very disconnected to them. And if this happened repeatedly, you lost a connection to them. The only person, who's supposed to raise you and take care of you, you sensed, oh my God, is there something wrong? Are they not there for me? Did I do something wrong? Are they going to leave me? And over time, this just created your sense of safety. So you were then overly attaching to your caregivers and to other people around you. And you worry about everything so much. You're always in your head about things. You're trying to be safe by predicting the future, by taking control, and you overthink every little thing. If this is you, don't worry. I've been there, and this podcast is really all about, becoming securely attached. And if you're one of those who really love and are very romantic, you are probably also the one who are attaching to your opposite, to the avoidant attachment style, where their core fear is about being trapped and losing independence because they have learned very early on that they can't rely on anyone else. Maybe their emotions were shut down or they were minimized or invalidated. So they had this core belief, I can't trust them. I can only trust myself. I can't rely on anyone else. Only I feel safe when I'm focusing on myself and I can't trust other people. That's why they really feel They feel triggered and smothered if you're focusing too much on them, if you are needing them too much, if you're asking too much in air quotes of them, if you're needing a lot of quality time or reassurance and validation. That's their triggers. Closeness can really feel threatening for them. They need a lot of space and freedom in their relationships. And then there's this attachment style, the fourth one, which I call the disorganized attachment style, mix of anxious and avoidant. You can lean more anxious here, or you can lean more avoidant, depending on your spectrum, depending on your upbringing. So you really crave love and you want love, right? That's completely normal. Everyone does that. However, they have learned that you can't trust people, you can't trust your loved ones, because you have been raised in an environment where things have felt scary, where it has been fearful. There was a lot of trauma happening in your past relationships, around your caregivers and around the environment you grew up with. There could have been through losing your parents, or they have been maybe addicted to drugs or alcohol, or they have been really emotionally or physically abusive in any kind of way. So you never had a sense of safety. So you do want to trust people, but you don't feel safe around them. And by the way, if you are that attachment style, you do really want therapy. You don't want coaching with me or other people. You want first therapy, someone who's very specifically trauma informed. That's why I help either people who have a disorganized attachment style, who have already dealt with big traumas, big capital traumas in their life already, or are already at the stage to heal and transform my life. Yeah. So if you usually attach fast and have this fear of being abandoned, or often feel like people might leave you, that's really the anxious attachment style. There's nothing wrong with you. It is just because of your fear that people will leave, that you're not good enough, that there's something wrong with you. But that is not true. So basically, in short, I was really shy. I had social anxiety, worried about what people thought about me. I had a deep fear of rejection, relied on other people for my sense of worth and safety and to feel good enough. I always looked outside of myself. If people liked me and invited me and talked to me, I thought, okay, I did something right. I was good. If they were mean to me, bullying me, I thought there was something wrong with me. I always took everything personally. So if someone didn't text me back or pulled away or made fun of my jumper and what I was wearing, instantly I felt triggered. I felt so insecure and pulled away. And later, maybe in romantic relationships more, I had to chase harder or earn my love more or achieve more to get compliments and praise and approval. And that's why my school time was very hard, because even in primary school, being very sensitive kid, very emotional kid, everything is just louder and amplified and you pick up on everything. And only when I was in my 30s, just a few years ago, I just realized I don't have to be this shy person. I don't have to be this insecure person. This is actually rooted based on my attachment style, and I can change this. And that has been a game changer for my health, for my relationship, for my career, and everything. And it just made sense. It validated my whole experience, my thoughts, where I was overthinking situations, where I tried to predict the future, why I thought people had it out for me or they didn't like me, why I was people pleasing to keep me safe, to be liked, and really wanted to prevent rejection and abandonment before it even happened. And I didn't even knew I had this fear of abandonment and rejection. Through attachment theory, through figuring out I was anxious attached, I really found out who I was at the core. Because if you have an anxious attachment style, you are losing yourself completely, wanting to become the person who you think the person wants you to be. You're basically like a chameleon. But through attachment theory, I realized I don't have to change. If you're anxiously attached, you probably know that feeling that like it only feels safe only if you're in a relationship. If you're alone, your life is like very boring, you're getting depressed and it feels scary maybe even. And if you're a romantic dreamer and feel deeply, that can be even harder if you only think you're okay when you're in a relationship. That's very exhausting as well. And then you're attracting avoidant partners, the dynamic that feels first super intense, and after the honeymoon phase, you both triggering each other completely. And the avoidant starts to really feel losing independence, and the anxious feels that emotional distance and start clinging even more, needing the partner more, but the avoidant partner can't give this to you because they feel trapped. They feel like this is not right. They can't feel safe. So it's this push and pull dynamic. Sometimes the avoidance then even leaves completely and ghosts you, or doesn't respond for you for a couple of days, and emotionally checks out. And that's when the anxious partner spirals even more and emotionally or physically chases the avoidant, starts to obsess over something they can't really have, and then they lose themselves completely in this relationship. But anyway, let's get into more of the Q&A questions that might help you too as well. Before I start, there's some free resources in the attachment library that might help you too. Journaling questions, quizzes about your subconscious unmet needs to check out your attachment style, worksheets about secure habits, jealousy, stop feeling so needy anymore, and lots of those things. So check them out. So are you ready for question 1 I've been asked? And that is, what changed when you became secure? In short, I stopped outsourcing my worth and sense of security. I started taking more risks and think bigger. I never would have dreamed about starting a podcast, starting a coaching business, and leaning on more instability, like financially. But now that my focus was on helping others and doing something outside of myself, even if it feels scary, this really pushed me to whole new limits and possibilities. I don't plan my life around my partner anymore. I used to always, put my partner first, think about what he wanted instead of what I wanted. Now I also put myself first. I'm able to set more boundaries and would be okay with walking away if my needs are not met. I am braver in general for opportunities in business, and even if things are scary, I'm able to gradually warm up my nervous system towards this very scary thing. Less in my head about situations that are outside of my control. I always ask myself when I feel scared, what can I control? Can I not? And I'm able to actually let go of things I can't control. That is really the superpower here. And the thing is, when you stop outsourcing your worth, you stop living in reaction to other people. You stop making your peace depend on whether someone texts or stays or gives you the affirmations daily or the exact physical closeness that you really wanted or approves of your action or of you. And that's where self-trust really is built. And those tiny moments where you choose yourself. And question number 2 on the survey of becoming securely attached, I was asked, does it feel different to be attracted to someone now? And I actually had to think about this one for a while. And I have to say, yes, the power dynamic, I think, changed completely, which is now differently. Before, I always felt I would love them more than they would love me, and they could leave at any time, and they have this control over our relationship and over me. And I felt very insecure about that. And now, if someone isn't treating me right, I can leave too. That makes me more confident and less helpless. And when you become secure, attraction changes from addiction to connection. You stop chasing and start valuing really peace. You give space because you finally feel safe within yourself. So something I've noticed as well is just by watching movies or reality TV, Love is Blind and all of these shows, I would have been attracted to the guys who are pretty much avoidant attached. But now I can, first of all, sense right away when they're avoidant, when they are not into commitment, if they would emotionally not be there for you. And I can sense it right away, and I can ignore all of the drama. I'm not into someone who's just playing games anymore. I'm actually more attracted to the secure partner who seem boring at first, but the ones who actually give you safety and true love and fulfilling long-term relationships. So I would say, my attraction to my current partner hasn't changed massively, but I am more turned off if he should not accept my needs and if he doesn't respect me. And luckily, we have come so far already. We have been always able to talk about things and find a common ground how we can make it work long term. And that's something I'm very grateful for, because years ago when we started our relationship, that was not the case at all. We didn't understand each other and there was a complete mess. Question number 3 is, what were the key turning points or breakthroughs in your transition? So my answer was, focusing on what I can control was a massive game changer, which is my thoughts, also my emotions, even if it takes more practice, and my actions. And then this creates a ripple effect to your results in your relationships as well. So instead of thinking what my partner should do and only focusing all my energy on him, I really focus on what am I doing that contributes to the messiness, to this push and pull in our dynamic. How can I clean up my side of the street? I watched the amazing ripple effect in how it impacted our relationship. Also doing the subconscious work to really rewire my limiting beliefs, like I'm not good enough, or my partner even doesn't even like me, or doesn't care about me, or will leave me, or will find someone better than me. Things like this, because these are the things you'll just find proof for in your everyday life, and that will subconsciously ruin your relationships if you don't challenge your thoughts and work on them on a daily basis through like a daily habit, a rewiring habit. Also, somatic tools are very important to really soothe yourself, to learn to manage your anxiety, to not outsource this part, to not wait for your partner to calm you, to soothe you, to reassure you. Yes, that's an important part later on, but first you want to get away from I can only feel okay if my partner reassures me to I'm already okay. I can reassure myself, I can validate myself, I can apply tools like breath work, like bilateral stimulation, through inner child work, through slowing down, through other ways to soothe yourself and to regulate your nervous system. And another part is filling your own cup first. So realizing I used to replace my partner with my parents subconsciously. So if you have an anxious attachment style, you had certain needs unmet in your childhood. May this be safety through consistency or reassurance, or may this be significance through words of affirmation or feeling seen and special and recognized, for example, and realizing it's not my partner to fill my cup, but it's my job to do this for me. And the more my cup is full, the more I'm excited about life, the more it impacts my partner as well. Look at the people you are most attracted to. I bet they have an exciting life, they have a rich life. No matter if it's like a celebrity or someone in your everyday life, the more they have things going for themselves. They are selfish, they're doing physical activity, or they're being creative, or they're having friends, or they're traveling around, but they're not just sitting on the couch every day, right? So you want to become the person you want to attract in your life. If you just sit around on your couch, that's the person you attract and invite into your life as well. And honestly, those I am done moments also were transformative. Like when staying felt really impossible for me, but leaving felt unbearable. That pain made me realize I have to change because I can't really leave. I remember in London, my partner and I had this huge argument. It was summer and I was crying my eyes out because every time when we started to spend some quality time together, it ended up in this huge fight, in this massive thing out of nowhere. In the end, I didn't even know what the fight was about. It was supposed to be about something small, but I didn't know what was going on. And only later on, through attachment theory, it all made sense. Now I know my triggers, I know my partner's triggers, and I know very quickly what the core of the conflict is. It's not about surface level issues. It's always about the unmet needs that are unfulfilled here. So now it's super easy for me to identify this and ask the right questions during those conflict moments or right after I've self-soothed already. And this shift happens when you try to stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself, when you stop trying to fix the relationship and start healing the pattern inside of you because you have an anxious attachment style. So just pointing your fingers and saying, hey, they are avoidant and they need help, is not going to work. When I was anxious attached, I didn't look up much on social media. I went right to a coach, to a membership, and did the work there and applied everything. And I think now the difference is people nowadays, they overthink. They just go on Reddit, on Google, on social media and consume everything instead of actually going out there, get a coach, join a program and actually apply those steps right away. But they're just staying too much in their head and applying micro things of things online. You're not going to be able to create results if you're just doing the work in your head. Question number 4, what was the biggest barrier or challenge you had to overcome? And my answer was like long term, it was actually physically the impact of my anxiety, which was like migraines, chronic migraines and exhaustion. It impacted, my bladder as well. Now I'm still getting very easily triggered into getting migraines. I'm getting hot physically. It has nothing to do even with like mental stressors, but it all came from years of being in my head, overthinking, being anxious, suppressing my emotions, pushing myself to a certain limit and not even realizing this. And that is still something I'm still managing nowadays. It's not something that just went away after becoming securely attached. That is the sad truth. My body insecurities, I think, that took a long time to rewire it, that I don't have to go from hate my body to I love my body, but it's a huge phase in between where I had to go from I hate my body to I'm okay with my body, because positive affirmations are not going to work if you have a huge limiting belief for yourself. And another thing is actually being with an avoidant partner who has really been going through their own trauma and depression and who are not doing the active work. And I've never been someone who just blames them and points fingers at them. There are some core needs, and how can we work through this without that they're getting triggered all the time? Because in truth is the avoidant, they do avoid because if you have a fear about emotions, about being vulnerable, it's so hard for you to talk about those things and address them. If your entire attachment style is built around avoiding those things. So that was a hard thing to overcome. And growth for an avoidant looks so much slower. It's so different than growth for an anxious attachment style person. Anxious attachment style person, they go hard because that's their survival energy. It's always applauded, but it's also survival. You're not doing the inner work because you're loving yourself so much because out of survival state. The avoidant avoids it out of survival as well. So it's easy to blame the avoidant, applaud the anxious, but in truth is we are both in survival, and giving the avoidant some grace as well. And having patience that their needle doesn't move like this, like for the anxious, but it can move slower. So in short, I would say healing anxious attachment isn't really just emotional, it's also physical, especially if you are in your 30s or 40s and have been anxious and insecure and in your head for 30, 40 years and have been suppressing your emotions. Because eventually your body will get punished for that. So anxiety really lives in your body. Soothing your nervous system isn't optional, it's really survival. You have to do it. Regulation is the bridge between anxious and secure. And you can't get this met by just your partner. You have to learn to self-soothe, not just co-regulate. Question number 5 is, what specific actions or strategies did you take to shift from anxious to secure? So step number 0 is awareness. Awareness to like podcasts and books and things like this. So I personally took full accountability for what I can do, not what my partner should do, as we said already. Then I worked on my anxiety. So I released my emotions. I learned to self-soothe, to take care of my emotions first. May this be to walking more, like doing less, by learning to apply self-soothing tools I teach my clients, like breath work. And second thing is to really challenge your limiting beliefs and rewire your subconscious mind through daily habits and routines. Like at morning and at night, I applied a certain habit and ritual for myself. Like, let's say my limiting belief is people will always leave. So I wrote down one limiting belief, like people will always leave, in my journal. I crossed it out once and found 10 pieces of evidence to prove this belief wrong. Did this for an entire month, and then I did either a different rewiring habit, or I choose a different belief after that month. And only with repetition and emotion you create a secure attachment style. The missing part here is then the third thing is you meet your own needs first. Basically, to prove that people don't always leave, and you're capable of handling being alone as well. So you take yourself out either on solo dates or express your boundaries gradually. Gradually is here really the secret, because you want to expand your capacity slowly. So you stop expecting your partner to do everything for you, and you slowly learn to do things for yourself more. You become more independent. And the last part is the fourth part, is more like a shadow part. Learn to integrate, things we have suppressed, to realize everything is a mirror in our life. So if you attract emotionally unavailable people, where are you emotionally unavailable to yourself? So taking 100% accountability is not about blame, it's about really empowering yourself. It's the moment you realize no one is coming to save you. And that's the good news, because that means you can only change that. You can save yourself. And question number 6 is, which strategies were most effective? I feel like I kind of answered this already, but I would say challenging my beliefs. So really doing every day a rewiring routine for myself, mixed with focusing what I can control. So beliefs create your emotional reality. When you change what you believe about love, about your self-worth, you automatically change what you feel, and then change what you attract and how you react and how you show up in relationships. Question number 7 is, how did your relationships change, romantic or family or friendships? So with my family, I'm now able to reach out and connect more instead of just withdrawing, retreat into my comfort zone. And I'm able to speak up more for something if I feel the need to. Instead of being scared, I wouldn't say the right thing, or I wouldn't be able to express myself properly. Like with my partner, so many things have changed. I would label our relationship 5 years ago as like a toxic one. Now it's mostly like I would say pretty much a secure relationship. So we used to break up, and then not properly, but we are on the brink of breaking up and then getting back together years ago. That would never happen now, because that would trigger my abandonment fears so much at that time. I'm able to speak up for what I actually need. If my partner really disrespects me or crosses my boundaries, I'm able to soothe myself first and then come back into this conversation, able to address it and express myself from like, you know what, hey, this doesn't work. This can't continue. How do you see that? What do you need? What was hurtful for you? How can we move on? And that is huge for me. I used to be a huge conflict avoidant person, avoided everything uncomfortable. Conflict was a huge sign of this means something huge and bad is going to happen if I continue a conflict, if I even start an uncomfortable conversation. And now I'm able to have it more and more. And it's not going to be perfect. We still have, our ups and downs, and we have not everything figured out. But I think that's also normal for any secure relationship. And we used to have this cycle where we went into this huge arguments together, maybe every other week back in London. Now we do have still arguments, but first of all, the way we argue is differently. We are both able to have a method where we don't trigger each other that deep anymore, and we're able to just soothe ourselves better in the moment. So we have our tools, and that created a much bigger connection to each other. And we don't try to change each other. I don't try to change my partner. I'm not going to tell him, hey, you have to become secure in this specific way. No, I address specific issues, and he does as well if needed. With friendships, I let go of those that really didn't feel aligned anymore, and I don't chase or overthink those anymore. I don't take things personally. emotional if those friendships don't work out, and I'm open for new connections. I think there's a huge shift in how I approach new people when I meet them on the street, in the supermarket. I used to be very shut down, very focused on myself, very anxious, jumped to conclusions about what they were thinking about me, took it personal, and only thought the worst of people because I was so insecure. Now my energy is much more open. I am welcoming people into my life, even if it's just for a smile and for a quick conversation, even if I don't speak their language. I'm just really attracting the complete different energy nowadays. And yeah, when you become secure, you don't need constant reassurance to feel close. You learn to let loose a little bit and to let people come and go without losing yourself or without holding the grip tight. Question number 8 is, what mindset or belief shift happened during this transformation? And I would say the biggest shift was realizing the belief I am enough, because that followed me from when I was very little to still nowadays it's popping up, but now I'm very much able to notice it, challenge it, and reframe it. And that's everything. And take actions aligned with my new belief that I am enough. If things feel uncertain, I don't panic. I can feel my feelings, I can sit with them, and I can reassure myself. And I can tell myself I am enough. I have all of this evidence, and it's going to be okay. And question number 9 is, how did you cultivate self-regulation and self-soothing? First, I had no clue what self-soothing even meant or the importance of it. I learned step by step by, for example, naming my feelings, allowing them to be there, doing a body scan, and by just slowing down. We usually reject our feelings. We label them as bad or good. Anxiety is something really bad and it means something is wrong, but that's not the case. All emotions are allowed to be there. They're just cues. And if you listen closely, you can then give them what they need. And you can start with somatic tools like shaking your body, deep breathing, taking more walks outside, being in general around nature. And again, butterfly hug, bilateral stimulation to connect both brain halves more, to tell yourself that you're okay, that you can release the emotion instead of letting it be stuck in your body. And the biggest shift, I guess, was realizing my partner is responsible for making me feel safe, which is basically called co-regulation. And if you have an anxious attachment style, you only want to co-regulate. You don't want to self-soothe. If your partner gets quiet or distant, or walks away from a conversation, this is your worst case nightmares. But in the moment you learn to self-soothe, you're okay even if they walk away. And worst case later on, even if you're going through a breakup or even if something stronger happens. So yeah, regulation is about emotional reparenting. You become the calm, grounded parent you always needed for yourself. It starts with your thoughts about yourself, how you talk about yourself, and then you apply actions through movement. And sometimes if you're just sad and you're realizing this is a deactivating emotion, you just allow yourself to be sad. If a little kid comes to you and cries and is lonely and is feeling lost, how would you talk to this little kid? If this little kid is screaming, then try to soothe it as well by asking, hey, what's wrong? I can't hear you if you're screaming at me, but what is going on? I'm here for you. You also want to soothe it. You don't want to shout back at it. The last final question, number 10 on the survey, is, how do you maintain a secure attachment style daily now? Great question. I would say curiosity and slowing down is a huge part. When I feel triggered, I regulate first and then I ask questions or take action. I ask myself, for example, often and visualize it of what would my most secure self do? Because in fact we're never 100% really secure. Deep inside, I'm still the anxious me, the insecure little scared me. But I also need to channel every day my most secure, grounded, empowered version of myself, especially when you're feeling triggered. So then I soothe myself, I reframe and challenge my limiting beliefs, and I meet my needs more gradually every day, especially if I'm stepping out more of my comfort zone. If I'm scared for something new, I then have to apply these tools even more regularly, and then I communicate. And something massive is a routine consistency, because an anxious attachment style is built on inconsistent caregiving. So now you want to do the caregiving for yourself, but consistently. That's exactly what the secure attachment style is built on. And that's the bridge from anxious to secure, from insecure to a secure attachment style, creating a routine for you every day. This is the way you talk to yourself, but also in the morning. Do you want to journal? Do you want to regulate your emotions? Do what you said you would do. If you're telling your friends as well, you are going to meet them Saturday, be there. Don't cancel. You don't have to check in 10 times, but just listen and stick to your words. And this is how you build self-trust. And yeah, secure attachment style is not a destination. It's a daily practice, and it happens in the everyday moments. You want to notice it and call it out, but also as a daily routine. You keep choosing safety and truth instead of outsourcing it from other people. And let me check if there was anything else. Oh, there was actually one more question. What do people need to understand about this process that isn't obvious? Most people think it's about communication with your partner. But actually, it's about focusing on you, on what you can do to regulate your emotions, on healing your abandonment wounds, and becoming securely attached yourself. And everything else will fall into place. You can do therapy or read books for years or go into coaching. But if you don't apply the tools, don't take action, nothing will change. So I healed fast because I went deep into the subconscious work, core wounds, abandonment fears, regulated myself, and listened to my coaches and where I was in the membership in. I watched the videos and applied the steps right away. I wasn't overthinking about I was applying all the things from one specific mentor, and that is it. I took all the actions every day for just a few months very sharply. I was focused on this because I knew if I wouldn't heal my abandonment wound, I would never leave my partner. And at that time, I felt like the relationship is going to not work out otherwise. And luckily, it did quite a ripple effect. So healing does not take time. It actually takes repetition. Your brain learns safety through consistency, not just information. You can read about boundaries, but until you set one, your nervous system won't believe actually it's safe. So I hope this episode was helpful for you. Let me know your biggest takeaway that resonated the most with you in the YouTube comments or on Apple or Spotify. I think there you can leave comments too. Also, let me know more questions if you want me to do another Q&A on my journey or what helped for my clients too, so I can create another episode on this. And if you want help becoming securely attached, I have a method I always apply with my clients who actually want to heal their anxious attachment style. And it's first release your emotions, then rewire your limiting beliefs, then reconnect with your unmet needs, and then reflect on your shadows, the parts of you that you have been suppressed and avoided for such a long time, because that's where deep long-term healing happens. I offer one-on-one coaching, both via WhatsApp or live video calls with you, or you can start with mini courses if you're just getting started. And if you're curious, just jump into the section below. You can email me or you can jump on a free call with me to see if this is the right fit for you and ask me any questions so we can figure this out together. I'm so happy you are doing the work already here, and that eventually you don't have to chase love anymore and you figure out that you are good enough, not just logically, but you actually feel good enough. So remember, change in your relationship starts with you, thought by thought, action by action, and now episode by episode. Lots of love, Yula. Bye-bye.